What's happening, guys? Welcome to Just the Radio, another episode. Jade, thank you so much for coming on.
Cool, thanks so much for having me.
Of course. So I met you through Sasha actually getting a tattoo. So in December, she told me to go to you and try get a tattoo through you.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I don't know, you were obviously away and everything, so you never saw the message. And then I went to Fallen Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, how long have you been, tattooing and being a tattoo artist?
I've been tattooing for about 3 years now. I've been in the industry for about 3.5. Obviously doing an apprenticeship for a bit and then tattooing from there.
What made you, obviously you were very artistic at school.
Yes, I've done art my whole life since I can remember. Just been drawing, always with a pencil, always with a paintbrush, just love creating. So that obviously what started my love for art and then tattoo art as well.
Was it something that you maybe told your parents or told family members or siblings? They were like, is that a smart career choice?
Yeah, definitely. So I was very, very blessed. My mom has had a lot of tattoos and my stepdad as well. So we're very comfortable with tattoos. And I was actually offered an apprenticeship when I was still 17. And my mom obviously steered me away from that, understandably. So I was still in school and all of that. And then, when I finished school and mentioned it exactly like I said, wasn't the most exciting career choice for parents to hear. So they were supportive, but not super. And then they rather steered me in the direction of getting a degree and learning something else. And after that, I then decided I'm going to do what I want to do now.
So how do you get an apprenticeship? Does someone approach you and just be like, come learn under me? Because as an apprenticeship, is that like the first step to being a tattoo artist?
100%. So there's no way really to study per se. There's not really courses or anything like that. Apprenticeships are the best way to go about it. And the easiest way is to approach an artist that you like, someone that inspires you or someone that you kind of want to become in a way, because obviously they're going to teach you in the way they can do it. So you approach them, you show them your portfolio, what you can draw, what you can paint, whatever it is that shows your creativity. And from there they decide either, cool, we like you, you can learn. They also have to kind of see who you are as a person. I mean, to be in the industry, you have to be able to have tough skin. Especially 5-6 years ago, it was a tough industry to crack into. So, you needed to have a bit of a tough skin. And if they liked you, then you start your apprenticeship and you basically work for them for free. And in exchange for your time, they teach you how to tattoo. They teach you the ins and outs, the cleaning, all of that stuff.
So obviously tattoos are permanent. So when you're practicing, you need to practice on something.
Yes.
Because you don't want your very first thing that you ever when you touch a pen is to go on a human skin. So what do you practice on?
So at first you practice on fruit, bananas, melons, watermelon. It's obviously not the best way to emulate skin, but it's something with a flesh.
So you can keep talking.
Type of a thing. So you start on fruit. They also have this type of, it's like a rubber base, and I mean they made it the shape of hands and feet and different weird things. And that's supposed to emulate skin as well that you can practice on. So you can't really stretch it the same way, but it gives you a little bit of idea of depth and at least just to be able to hold the machine and understand the weight of the machine and all of that.
How long were you studying and being an apprenticeship before you actually did tattoo on someone's skin?
I was there for 5 months. So it's different everywhere you go. It's different for every person as well, depending how fast you progress, how hard you push to get there. So mine was after, it was the 3rd of May, I remember. And I just decided that day, my sister came in and she was like, today you're tattooing me. And I said, no, I'm not. She's like, yes, you are. Okay, we're doing it today. So it was cool, very, very scary, because to go from a rubber mat or a piece of fruit to a human skin is very, very nerve-wracking and different. So it was cool, though. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I got my tattoo, it was 2 weeks ago. There was an apprentice there as well, and she apparently messed something up. And they were telling her, like, if you mess something up, you have to tell the person that you're messing it up so someone else can actually come in and fix it.
100%.
Because, I mean, it's permanent. So I'm sure as an apprentice, you're super nervous going into tattooing someone.
And it's the weirdest thing, because of your nerves, you shake. So now you're shaking, but you can't shake because you need to have, like, a straight, clean line. So it's just this weird, like, super scary type of thing. But as soon as you do it, like, the first time, I think you start to realize it's not that scary. Just trust yourself. You know what you're doing. And then obviously makes it a lot easier. But mistakes happen, especially when you're learning. And it is super nerve-wracking because that mistake's going to be there forever unless someone can fix it.
obviously everyone has their own style of drawing, their own style of art, and you know, there's different styles of tattoos. Do you particularly, obviously you enjoy maybe one certain way, but obviously you tattoo what the people want?
So 100%, I think things are changing a lot at the moment. I think 5, 6, 7 years ago minimum, I'm going to talk because that's when I've been in the industry, even just getting tattooed. So, you know, we would find the closest tattoo studio down the road where you just walk in, give them a piece of paper, show them what you want. They'd say yes, no, if they could do it. You know, that's kind of how tattoos were 5, 6 years ago. Where I think now with social media being as prevalent as it is, people are allowing that to be their portfolio. So as the client, you've got a lot more options to choose from. You can research and think about you. You've got to research thousands of different artists, even hundreds in the voice area alone. Okay, which one do I like? Do I like what it's matching, what it's not? So because of that, us as artists have to really create our own style, create something that's going to make us stand out from the 5 artists down the road, because there are so many of us at the moment. So there definitely is a style factor that comes into it. Yes, you want to be good enough to do everything, 100%. But I think it's really important, and I think a lot of artists are doing that at the moment, just finding their own specific style, just to, you know, make sure they stand out. And I do definitely think I have mine coming along, maybe not entirely where I want it just yet, but that's what's exciting. It's continuously molding and changing, you know. And
what is that style that you think that you're kind of getting?
It sounds so silly. It's called peppercorn shading, which sounds so silly, but it's a type of shading that, you know, you use by flicking the machine, and it creates lots of tiny little dots.
Do you have any of those on you?
I've got on my, you can't really see it on my leg.
Okay.
So not much on the arm. But yeah, that's definitely my style. Try and do portraits, flowers, whatever I do with that style. It's my favorite to do. So that would definitely be the main thing. I do a lot of flowers as well. I've been called the flower girl quite often. So flowers would definitely be one of them. But yeah.
And you obviously, as you were saying, you know, social media is where you build your portfolio and you know, showcase your portfolio. How have you, you know, found, you know, creating a following? You obviously have your own personal page, but you have a business page as well, where you focus on showing your work and showing your art.
So I think I was very, very fortunate. I knew a lot of people. I had a beautiful friend group that supported me so much. I worked in different places. I worked at Truth many, many moons ago when I was young. So from that, I kind of knew a lot of people, and a lot of people knew me. And that definitely helped with the networking perspective of it. It helped me to be able to get my name out there, even as an apprentice learning. It helped me to get people just following my page, looking at my page, because they knew who I was. So that definitely helped to get out there. And then obviously, you know, just creating a separate page that then people can focus solely on tattoos from there.
Yeah. But I mean, I was actually looking at your social media, and you made a post last year, October, I think it was, where you said you were fully booked for the rest of the year. And I mean, I assume that is an amazing accomplishment for such a young artist.
No, 100%. It was such a beautiful achievement, especially I think coming out of COVID. You know, for 3.5 months, we couldn't work. Our doors were closed. So to come from that to be fully booked for the year and then some into the new year is just absolutely incredible. And I'm super, super grateful for it. And it's also nice for a little bit of like reassurance, you know, especially in a very creative industry. You have dips and lifts all the time, so ups and downs of I'm doing amazing, at the top of my game. And then you have dips, you're like, I'm just not good enough, you know, everyone's so much better. And that's how it is, because it's very competitive. So, you know, when things like that happen, it really gives you a boost. Say, I'm in the right space, I'm doing the right thing, you know.
How was, obviously, you know, lockdown, everyone had to shut their doors, everyone had to, you know, close business. Were you able to, obviously, when things eased up a little bit, were you able to, you know, even go to people's houses? Is that something you were open to doing? Or
so I know a lot of artists did do that. I personally didn't. I didn't feel comfortable. B, I think we've got to understand how hygienic a tattoo space needs to be, you know. It has to be very clean, it has to be very sterile, and I don't know how people's homes are like, what they look like. You could have a bit of a messy home, pet hair everywhere, and I don't know how sterile it is and how much sterilization I need to do in that space. So for me, it's not really something I do. But I know a lot of other artists did, and it was cool. It was cool for them to be able to keep going. So,
and we're actually talking about before, and I even spoke about it to the tattoo artist that did my tattoo, is, you know, having to pay not rent for your space almost, but rent to the name of the tattoo company that you work for. And I think hers was 50%. It's half of whatever she makes of a tattoo she has to pay.
Yeah. So
and obviously you don't, being at your own studio, other than the rent of...
Yes, yeah. So that's the thing. When you work for an actual studio, most places pay 50% of what you earn. So whatever you bring in, 50 of that goes to the studio. I think the main reason for that is the studio's name kind of gives you a lot of clientele. So, it's less likely that people come to you as who you are, but more to, like, for example, the Fallen Heroes name. They have such a reputable name. You go to that studio for their name. So I think that's a big reason as to why people have to pay the 50. Obviously, then there's the chair space that you rent. Depending, some studios are different, but some, they give you needles, ink, whatever. Others, you still get your own. So the nice thing, I obviously don't have to pay that. I pay, the business costs, but the rest of then is mine, obviously, from what effort I put in.
And obviously, what you're paying for your business costs and what you spend on ink and all those, things within the business costs are less than 50%. That's what's viable for you to be doing on your own.
100%, it definitely is. I do understand why some people can't. I've seen many brilliant, capable artists go out on their own before and have to then go back to the studio. I think the biggest thing is obviously being able to network yourself. If you can't have your own client base that's solely coming for you and not the name that you work for, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do it, Also, I've studied graphic design and marketing. I had the business and the marketing background to be able to market myself, which I think definitely obviously helped me being on my own, where I know some people don't, and that's understandably so. So, having all that knowledge really, really, really helped me to be able to do that and kind of take that step, because it is a scary step, There's no safety net. There's no studio that's going to catch you if you fall. If you don't have clients, you don't have clients, So it's really, really nerve-wracking, but I think that definitely helped.
And after your apprenticeship, did you go straight into, doing it yourself, or?
So no, I actually left my apprenticeship to go overseas. I went to go backpack Europe for a little while. And the intention was to tattoo in Europe and just, get an international perspective. Traveled around Spain quite a bit due to family circumstances. I had come back a bit earlier than expected, but it was still a beautiful opportunity just to get, an international feel for how things work out there. And then, when I came back from that, I decided to start my own one and branch out onto my own.
And going overseas, it does give you an amazing insight into how things work differently compared to here. Was there a few things that you maybe learned doing about tattooing in particular overseas?
I'll be very honest, I went to Spain first and they spoke with Spanish and I couldn't speak Spanish. So that was like a really silly mistake on my part, to go to a country that I could not actually engage with. But it was cool just to see kind of what styles they used, how the studios were. A lot of them are actually very similar, how tattoo studios are 2-3 years ago, kind of across the board were the same. You'd walk in, it had the same layout, most of them. So it was just interesting to see.
And in terms of like work hours and everything, do they maybe work less hours, longer hours, and or do they try to fit in more people in a day?
So it's so weird. Like a lot of European countries, like their times change so much. So because it was winter, they would only open at 11, and most of the shops were 2 unless they were breakfast shops. So most of the places only open 11, 12, and then close 9 or 10 at night. Just to accommodate for the cold, accommodate for the tourism aspect. So it was basically the same. I mean, some studios I found would be open for 2 hours in the morning, close, and then 2 hours in the afternoon again, close. So it was a bit strange to see it like that. They didn't have operating hours like we do, but I do know Europe, I've been to a lot of it, that they work like that due to weather and due to stuff like that.
Sure. And would you say people in South Africa get tattooed as often as overseas, or from your experience? No,
I definitely think overseas trumps South Africa 100%. I mean, Australia itself, every person down the street that you walk down, you see completely covered. I mean, I don't know if you get a chat, but when you walk around, people stop and they look at your tattoos and they like watch you.
If you have like a full sleeve or something, they look at you like...
You get stared at like a lot. That does not happen overseas. It's so normal. When I was in Australia, I would stop and look at people and they were so unfazed because everybody has them. The UK is quite similar to that. So it also obviously depends where you're going, what areas, basically like here as well. But overseas it is a lot bigger.
And as you said, people look at South Africans and, you kind of, you just assume people are judging you. And unfortunately in the workplace, it's the same thing where people look at your tattoo, let's say a job interview, they'll look at you and they'll be like, this guy's got tattoos. Maybe he's made some bad decisions in his life.
Yeah.
What's wrong with him? Maybe we shouldn't employ him. Whereas, like, if he's got the exact same record, paperwork's exactly the same as someone else that doesn't have tattoos, 100%. They'll get the job.
100%.
Have you had people kind of like say like maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should, like it's half.
Definitely. I've been judged a lot based on it. When I tell people I have a degree, for example, they are absolutely shocked, as if it's the most unimaginable thing, and I can't understand why. I tell people I did really well at school, I'm really smart, I've got a degree. They're like, what, you as a tattoo artist? No way. Really shocked about it. So it's a lot of judgment from that. And yeah, just, seeing me covered in tattoos, this and that, there was no, oh, you'll never be able to work here, or you definitely don't go to church, or, a lot of that judgment is attached to it, which is sad. Some of the best people, smartest people, coolest people I know are covered in tattoos. I don't see how it should change, but, I think it is a very stereotypical thing, and where the stereotypes derive from, it makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a reason cliches exist. There's a reason stereotypes exist. So you've kind of got to just understand where they come from and try your best to just change people's perspective on them.
Fortunately, it has got a lot better, and I think, it's definitely a bit more acceptable. And, certain people might be like, okay, it's fine that you have tattoos, but maybe just cover them when you're at work. Because I know my brother works for my dad. My dad has a tattoo, but still, he says, Rowan, when you go out to see clients, just wear your sleeve, because he's got a full sleeve. So he always has to wear a long shirt.
Yes, 100%.
So my dad just says, Rowan, when you see clients, just make sure that you cover your tattoo. The moment you get back in your car, roll up your sleeve, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But it's kind of just, it's changing, fortunately, because if you see someone with a tattoo, it doesn't mean they're unprofessional.
Not at all. I think the biggest thing is, think about a lot of the clients that these people are going to see. Most of them, and I'm not trying to put like a blanket out there or judge anyone or anything like that, or generalize, but most of them do fall in the bracket of people who come from the generation who judge tattoos. Understand, they were growing up, tattoos are bad, tattoos come from people in prison, tattoo, whatever it was. So, their mindsets are there. So if you're wanting their business and I come there with tattoos knowing they think that way, I'm not going to get their business. Yes, it's sad, but unfortunately we have to think like that. But it is changing. I mean, our generation's growing up. We're coming into those positions. So it's beautiful that it's changing, and I think in the next 15 years or so, you're probably not going to get employed if you don't have a tattoo, you know what I mean? So it's really exciting.
I actually saw a very cool post the other day. It was this quite old, probably like 70-year-old lady, and she's like, you know what, when you're old, your tattoos are still going to look the same. When your skin's not going to look that bad. Because she was covered in tattoos. I don't know the exact words of what she said, but she was kind of like saying, like, don't listen to people telling you that your skin's going to sag and your tattoos are going to stretch and you're going to look awful. Because that's just people what they say.
Yeah.
It's like kind of old wives' tales that people have told. Because if if your skin, obviously, if you put on a lot of weight and lose it, maybe different story. But if you get older, it's not like you suddenly become, this sagging skin.
I've always said, I make a joke, like at least my wrinkles will have pictures on them. Yeah. So, whatever they look like at that time is what they will look at that time. The same way if someone smokes, everyone tells you you're going to have a lot of wrinkles around your mouth if you smoke, but you don't care about that right now because right now you want to smoke. It's the same kind of thing. You worry about that one day, and my wrinkles will have cool pictures on them, and yours won't. So,
But also, if you think about it, if you're a granny, it's not like you're walking around showing. Like, who cares? Like, if you see an old guy with a full sleeve now, you kind of think like, that guy's pretty cool.
Yeah, we think he's really cool. Yeah. Exactly. No, I think I'm excited to see what the grandparents of our generation are going to look.
They're going to have like these full beards with all these tattoos.
Yeah, piercings, sagging. Yeah. It's going to be very interesting.
And in terms of like tattoos, I'm sure people come to you to fix some tattoos.
Yeah, many.
And what is the biggest reason? Is it maybe making a mistake and choosing the wrong art, or is it poor care after the tattoo?
It's a mix. It can be both. I know I've covered a lot of pieces that were done by studios or artists that obviously didn't do a great job, or maybe just didn't guide the client in the right direction. Some areas you shouldn't get certain things in. It's gonna run, it's gonna smudge, it's gonna sag, whatever it may be. So you have to cover that or fix that. Sometimes it is really bad aftercare. You've got to take care of it properly. So if people aren't doing that, it's not going to heal well. So it just depends. A lot of people make silly mistakes of like what they want. They put some script that they thought was the coolest thing
Someone's
ever.
Name.
So many names I've covered. So many names. So you know what I mean? Stuff like that, which I understand. I've got maybe 1 or 2 pieces that I can't wait to cover up one day, because at the time I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Now I despise them, So I think yeah, a lot of thought needs to go into them, but I think that's why people also don't, because they know I can just cover it, so it really is fine, you know. So it depends on what it is, how big it is.
And as an artist, how do you cover up something? Because obviously it kind of needs to be shaded over. Obviously you can, depending on the piece and what you're covering, you know, it might be easy, it might be difficult, but how do you go about it? Because you kind of just need to cover it with color and then, or even black, and then...
Yeah. So, I mean, cover-ups are really difficult. You get specific artists that are incredible at cover-ups. They can just see it, because you need to kind of visualize where that is. How do I distract from what's under there without just covering black over it? Because basically, if you want to cover something, you just color black over it. It needs to be darker than what's under there. But I can't just cover black over that spot, because you might as well just have a blob there. You know, so some artists are incredible at being able to see and counter that. But yeah, you can't. It's a lot of pre-planning. You've got to plan how it's going to look. You've got to plan shadows, highlights. Obviously, like I said, it has to be darker than what's under there unless you morph it into something else. But yeah, cover-ups are not easy to do, and they're really not my favorite to do either.
Imagine.
But, you know, it's really nice to be able to turn something that someone hates and they've kind of accepted, like, oh, I'm going to hate this forever, and allowing to give them a chance to love that part of them again, you know what I mean?
Have you ever, as an artist, had someone that's completely unhappy, maybe not because of anything you did, but because they kind of regret, or they kind of look at it and be like, yo, maybe I shouldn't have done this?
I think I've had like one or two people who have said, you know, oh, I should have thought that out better. But I do try my best to every session just to really make sure are you happy? Are you 100% sure? You know, give them my advice. I don't think you should put it there. I think it's better there. If they choose afterwards, you know, I've had that a few times where I've said to someone, listen, I think it's way better this. I'd rather do it here. They said no. At the end of the day, it's your tattoo. I can guide you. I can't force you. And they came back going, you were right. I should have done it that way. But not so many people are unhappy. I think I try and reiterate how permanent it is before they start, and give them the choice to really think about it.
And in terms of places like on your body that you maybe shouldn't get, I've heard a lot about your knuckles, but what are your views on that? So
I mean, get a tattoo wherever you want to, but I think it's important that the artist tells you about certain areas first. So knuckles, hands.
Because I see you have, but I mean, was it an issue?
Faded terribly.
Really?
And you know, I think I've accepted that because I'm an artist. I'm okay with that. You know, kind of. It is what it is.
Once a month, just go over it.
I do. When I sit there really bored, I'm like, okay, let's touch it up again, you know.
Oh, you're right-handed?
Yes.
Okay. So
that's why they are on this hand.
So those were all you?
No, the one was my ex-boss.
Okay.
I've just let that one to fade. I'm hoping it disappears.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's certain areas that obviously are more prone to fading, like your foot, your knuckles, your hands, ankles, really bony areas. So as long as you're aware of that, and if you do decide you want to put it there, that's fine, as long as you know you're going to need touch-ups. It might not stay there forever. Other areas on like just knowing that the ink does run quite a bit, so just care for what you put there. So stuff like that, as long as the client is aware of what that skin does and what that area does, then they can make that decision for themselves. I don't think there's anywhere you should or shouldn't get, as long as you accept what that result is going to be. You know, like I've accepted that these hand tattoos are just going to look like pencil.
Yeah, okay. And I was going to ask you something. Let me just think while I talk. So basically, if you... Yes, I've gone completely off track. Let me think. Yo. I can't believe I went so blank.
It happens.
What were we talking about? We were talking about
places.
Yes. That's exactly where I was going to go. Sorry, guys. So if, you know, places in terms of getting tattooed and pain, I've had my shin, but I found the inside of my bicep worse. Some people say their shin's the worst, their knee's the worst. So obviously you've tattooed a lot of your body. Personally, what have you experienced? And also, you know, obviously tattooing other people, what have you seen on them?
Personally, calf was horrendous. I haven't even finished it. I know I have a pansy and I tapped it out and still haven't finished it. In a bicep.
Calf as in like the actual muscle part, or even lower, like towards Achilles?
That whole area.
The whole back of your...
I find muscly areas, I thought they'd be so fine. They're actually not. They burn a lot. My knee was pretty gnarly as well. Didn't enjoy that. Elbow as well. And then inner bicep, I think, was also one of the top worst ones ever. It was also so bad. So those for me personally. In terms of what other clients have said, and like you said, you didn't find your shin so bad. I've had someone who's like shaking, crying with their shin. Everyone's pain threshold is different. I think tattoos are definitely a mind over matter thing. And I'm not saying they don't hurt. Oh, mind over matter. people have mental strength to get through things and other people don't. I don't. I cry, I moan, I'm not good at sitting for tattoos. I have other clients who don't even flinch a muscle for 7 hours straight. So I think it is a big mind thing to be able to know you've put yourself in this painful position, breathe through it, it's going to hurt, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And some clients can just do that. They can kind of take themselves out of the pain. So certain areas for them that I think are horrendous, they're okay with, you know. But a lot of people do say inner bicep is terrible pain. Most people know that. Ribs, I don't personally have them, but I know from a lot of clients it is quite bad. Spine is quite bad. Obviously calf, shin, knee, inner thigh. Anywhere where you feel the skin is super, super soft and sensitive. So basically if you stand straight, what areas are exposed to the sun quite a lot and which ones aren't? The ones that aren't will hurt more because the skin's not as tough, it's not as exposed, it's not as weathered, it will be more sensitive.
And, you know, in terms of people that you've tattooed, has there been people that like have said, okay, no, stop, I can't go anymore?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I did, you know, I eventually tapped out. It got to a point where I was just like, I mentally can't push through this. Physically, your body can, obviously. You know, with fitness, you know, with a bunch of different things that we do, your bodies are far more capable than what we are, what we think they are. But, you know, it was a mind thing, and I don't think a lot of clients have got to that point where they just, I've had, I think 3 or 4 who said, listen, I'm going to have to come back. Like,
how long were those sessions?
The one, okay, shame, she did choose a really sensitive spot, and I don't think she thought out the pain process as well. But she was about 3.5 hours in, and she didn't care on. And then another client, it was his knee and shin. So it was a pretty bad area, and he was about 4.5 hours in, and he said, I can't. But, you know, like I said, I understand they're painful places, and some people can just mentally push past that, and others can't. So
yeah. And you're talking about like 4.5 hours. As an artist, is it difficult to kind of, because obviously like the apprentice that was there, the lady said to her, I can see when was the beginning of the tattoo and when the end of the tattoo was. Is it just practice, or is it obviously a mindset thing? But how do you keep the same attention to detail throughout like a 7-hour session?
So yeah, I mean, it does come with practice. You have to train your brain to know that you're there for 7 hours and your brain's got to focus. It's also just being really wise with kind of, you know, which areas you want to tackle. Obviously, you have to do it in a systematic order in terms of not letting your stencil disappear. But, you know, I kind of also sometimes try to tackle the most precise areas as best you can first, so that when it comes to something like shading and you're doing it at the end when you're a bit more tired, it's okay. You know, something like shading, you don't need the precision that you do with a long straight line. Breaks also I find super helpful. I know some artists don't take breaks. I don't know how. I envy them. I would love to understand how. But I think breaks at certain points are really important.
Even for the person getting tattooed.
Definitely, 100%. They need that 2 minutes just to like come back down to themselves. But for me, I like to take a break, go out, breathe fresh air. That's number one important. Just get some fresh air outside, have a stretch as well. Your body gets so tight and so sore. And I think once you're at that point where you're hot, you're flustered, your body's now tight and you're tired, you know, you really need to break that little position and then reevaluate. And it really does help. It kind of gets your brain back to focusing. Make sure you eat, make sure you drink enough water. You know, those are all those little things that I do to make sure when I come back, it feels like I've just sat down again, you know.
And someone that wants to maybe become a tattoo artist, maybe someone that I've always wondered, because obviously like sport, let's say you can get someone with talent and they work super hard and they get amazing. As a tattoo artist, because I know personally, no matter how hard I practice, I'm never going to be a talented artist. Have you, obviously, you know, if you've got the talent, you improve. But have you ever seen someone that maybe hasn't had talent in art and, you know, really practiced that and got really good at drawing or tattooing?
So what I have seen and what I do think is that, I mean, not anyone could be a tattoo artist, fair. But I do think without the artistic background or artistic natural talent, you are able to tattoo to an extent. I mean, there's always, or most times, unless you're a free-handed artist, a stencil that you follow. So if you're able to get that stencil done right through whatever ways, because if you're not artistic, and you follow that stencil with precision, you can then tattoo. But I think where the issue comes in is A, creating your own artwork prior. You know, you need some artistic ability to be able to make something unique. But B, being able to bring the artistic aspect to that simple line work that you've now created, right? So where do lowlights go? Where does shading go? Where do highlights go? Where does the sun hit to filter to where, you know what I mean, shadows. Those are the type of things that a lot of artists know through years of being an artist, through years of drawing. Drawing a face, I know if the sun hits you this side, all those different factors, you know, you learn that over the years. So I think without that, you might struggle going forward, really creating beautiful pieces with a little bit more of an artistic flair to them other than following simple line work. But it is possible, and, you know, with tattooing, you only get better with time. So it's exciting because you know you're only going to get better as long as you stay working. So for people who don't have artistic background and work really, really hard, I'm pretty sure they can do it for sure.
And someone, in closing, someone that wants to be an artist, you know, that maybe has been told they shouldn't be, try to do a conventional job, go study, you know, what kind of advice would you give them?
Definitely follow your heart 100%. Me leaving my degree, leaving graphic design, leaving a beautiful job that I had to maybe pursue something that I was maybe going to be good at was the best decision I ever made. You know, I had to deal with a lot of ifs, ands or buts from family members, and a lot of judgment, a lot of risk taking, and it is 100% the best decision I've ever made. So, you know, if people aren't super supportive of it, obviously look at how you can do it. You don't want to put yourself in a really sticky situation, but if it's something you're passionate about, understand it's going to take a lot of hard work. But if it's something you're passionate about, go and do it. I mean, passion trumps money any day. I'll 100% say that. You know, it's nice when the money follows, but if you love what you do I know it sounds so cliche, but if you love what you do every day, you know, you work. Of course you work, but you work harder, and you love working that hard because you absolutely love it. So definitely go for it. 100%.
Jade, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. And where are you based exactly?
I'm in Douglasdale, just opposite Design Quarter, in a private studio. And you can check it out on Jade Kelly Tattoos on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you very much for coming out. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Of course. And thank you guys for listening. Cheers.